everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Eileen, our first episode. We'll be doing a series of episodes on different people in our community, different impacts that they've accomplished in our community, businesses, events, and we're just going to have a little bit of fun with Conversations with Eileen. My very first guest, I'm so happy and proud to call my friend. We've known each other, it's got to be 17, 18 years. We've been each other's Lucy and Ethel, roles reversed many times. We've had a lot of fun together. So let's get started. And with great pride, I introduce my very good friend, Robin Fitzpatrick.
Hey, hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being my very first guest.
I am so excited to be your first guest. This is really, really awesome. I'm actually so happy that you invited me here. And it's good to see you.
It's always good to see you. We're usually getting into trouble when we're together.
So. Yes, and that's one of the reasons we had to be separated. So can't get into too much trouble.
So, Robin, the first thing I want to kind of talk a little bit about is, you and I have known each other for, as I said, is it 18 years when the girls were in
pre-K?
Pre-K, so they were 4 years old. They're going to be 22. Our girls are just a week apart.
Yep.
And we've known each other and been friends
since we met for that long.
Why don't we talk about a little bit about our early years and some of the things that we kind of jumped into blindly?
Yeah. So I remember when our girls were maybe just starting kindergarten, and everybody got that letter from the Girl Scouts. The daisies were looking to form daisies. And I feel like there was one of those things like, but if we don't have any leaders and we don't have any volunteers, we can't do this. And I think you and I just had a conversation, and we were both like on the same page, where we both said, hey, you know what? Do you want to do this together? I don't remember if you were Lucy that day or I was Lucy that day, but we kind of both, at the same time, it was like that light bulb, and we were like, hey, you know what? So sure. And that's how I think our working together relationship kind of started. And our girls were daisies and brownies, and we did a lot of fun projects, community service things with them, planting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, please mention the planting that we did. Because that was a lot of fun, and that was a very teachable moment for the girls.
Yeah, so we helped to beautify Barnum Woods. The girls, if I remember correctly, they made these little like stepping stones, or these little like stones, and they had made them with us, and then used them to decorate and create a garden in the front of Barnum Woods Elementary School, where we all spent a lot of our time.
We spent a lot of our time, and we were very fortunate to have Jen Cipriano.
Yes.
And I think we have a picture. And when we look at the girls and how small they were, you will not be able to find Jen, because she looked like one of our daughters.
She did look like one of the girls. She was
great.
She did.
She was great. Yeah. And I think we did Girl Scouts did we do it for 7 years? Including daisies, until they went into middle school?
I think we did. We were with them through brownies, and then I think they moved on to the next level and merged with another troop.
Yes.
And because we lost a few girls,
and longer needed.
Yes.
Our s'mores making days were over.
Yep. But our PTA days were a lot of fun.
They were just beginning. Yes, they were just beginning.
So I remember how a certain someone, you, Eileen, in case you didn't get what I'm saying, kind of roped me in, because you had been at Barnum Woods before me because you're old. Because while our girls are the same age, your son is a little older.
Yes.
So you were a little ahead of me in that PTA world. So I remember when the girls were in kindergarten, you were like, "Oh, come to a PTA meeting," and you encouraged me. And then you had said, "Hey, let's sign up. They were looking for people to sign up and do committees." And I don't remember offhand what our first committee was, but there were committees that needed chairing and volunteers. And you were like, "Oh, just do it. Just do it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun." Yeah, and we did. We had a great time, and we did a lot of things together in PTA. I know when we were at Barnum, you were co-president, and I was one of your vice presidents.
Yep.
And then when you moved out of that role, I became the next co-president with another woman, Sarah, who was really great to work with.
Love Sarah Diamond.
Yeah, she was fantastic. And I know we did so many fun things and good things for the kids and for the teachers and the community in Barnum Woods. I feel like we really made a big difference for the kids, for all the kids and the staff.
Well,
and had a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun. One of my favorite things that we did do, and we kind of expanded it while we were still kind of transitioning from Girl Scouts to PTA, was our Halloween events.
Yes.
We had a lot of fun with those too.
We did. So in the schools, we did the Halloween bingo. And then as families and friends, we did the big Halloween party every year. You were always generous enough to host it at your house, but the kids, we'd get together for days, and the kids would all set up together, our kids and my kids and your kids. And we had a great time. In fact, I just posted one of our pictures of you and I in costume that I came across. I shared it with you on social media, and those were so much fun. And our trips to the haunted house. Mm-hmm. We used to do an annual trip to the haunted house, and it seemed like that group just got bigger and bigger. And then, ice cream after, or fire pit after, always something after, which was just nice. Those memories and those pictures and all that, those are such fond memories. We used to do all those things. Oh my God.
Fun
forever.
And then, when we look back, I think that I like to think that you and I were somewhat in part of, kind of gearing these girls into the direction of who they are now. We still pretty much know every single girl that was in our Girl Scout troop and are still friends with their moms, and girls are doing amazing. I would be remiss if I didn't mention our biggest outing, which was 18 kids at the first Halloween outing we had.
Yes.
18 kids, right. Robin.
And parents. And
yes.
And some other siblings that joined, and oh my gosh, yeah.
That was a lot of fun. So through the years, we really have, I think that we've continued to grow in our roles of things that we give back to our community. And at a certain point, you kind of went in a little bit of a different direction. You continued on with PTA, and I'd like you to tell everyone.
Oh, sure. So I did. I continued to stay with PTA. I continued to stay through middle school, and then I moved on to the council level, which the council level was kind of the umbrella for all of the individual units. And one of the things that I loved being at the elementary schools, and then as the kids got a little older, it was almost like it just seemed like it was easier to make a difference on that bigger level, on the district level, where you could work with the Board of Education and the superintendent to really advocate for change and things like that. And I will tell you, there were a few things that I was council vice president for 4 years, because you went from second up to first, and they were 2 years each. And then I was council president for 2 years. And I will say, when I was vice president, we worked on a few things. We advocated for a turning arrow in a very high traffic area near our local pool, where it's a big intersection for kids to cross who are going to middle school and to high school, because of the proximity for kids who aren't getting the bus and had to walk, for kids who were during the summer going back and forth to the pool. And there was no opportunity for them to cross. And it was one of those things that we advocated for. And we stood on that corner and took videos and really made the case to how that was not safe, and we needed more control. And we did end up getting that traffic light. It's also a big intersection for first responders over there. So, in my role as council president, so while I was let me kind of back up. So I always stayed with PTA, and at some point I did also become a volunteer with my local fire department.
I'm glad you brought that up.
which is one of those things where how I ended up getting involved in that, and I'll kind of digress a little bit into that story, is we had a fire in our house in 2008. We came home from dinner. The street was closed off. The fire department had already had it extinguished, and they did get our dog out. Thankfully, he was shaken up, but unharmed. In fact, you were my first phone call. You came. You took you took the kids while my husband and I handled what we needed to handle. We stayed with you for a few days while we found a place to stay that was local, while we worked on repairing, and rebuilding. And you also did coordinate a lot of our friends to kind of get us things that we needed. And those are things that were a lesson for our kids too. And I think my kids learned a lot from that, because to see how people they didn't know, of course they knew you and some of our inner circle, but people they didn't know would come together to help a total stranger, whether it was giving clothes or food or something for our dog, or, the things that you take for granted that you wake up with and you don't have a toothbrush, you don't have clean underwear. The things you take for granted on a daily basis, and all of a sudden you just don't have it. So, this was a big lesson for my kids too. I think in generosity and community, which was one of the reasons that I always wanted to stay and do more things for my community, because it's one of those, and I tell the kids all the time, and now that they're young adults, we give back and we help when we can. And, you just do something for somebody because they need it. They may never be able to repay you. And that's, it's just about doing the right thing, even when no one is looking, right? That's a saying that we live by.
I like
and, so once we did rebuilds and we got back, we had a few people who were involved in the fire department, and they had kind of first tried to, ask my husband to join, and he had always had a passion for it. My father-in-law was in the fire service. He was hired as a fire marshal. So my husband joined as a volunteer. And then when the kids were a little older and I would go to functions, people would say to me, "Hey, are you going to join?" And, and eventually I really, really talked about it, and running into fires wasn't for me personally. But there's also the EMS side. And I felt like, having always kind of had an interest in biology and health. And, at one point I wanted to be a nurse. It just ended up, my path went in a different direction. And I thought this was potentially a good opportunity. And I was also very apprehensive and scared, because I was now not in my 20s, like a lot of the other people who were there. As a mom, and as, I had a big fear. What if I do this and I respond to something and it's bad? Or if it's a kid, how do you cope with that? Yeah. And I was really, really apprehensive. And was kind of at a point in my life, in my kids' lives as well, where I sat down with them and I kind of wanted to set the example that it's good to step out of your comfort zone. And I kind of felt like I'd rather be sorry for something I did than something I didn't do, to just know. And if it wasn't for me, then it wasn't for me. But at least I know that I tried, instead of always saying, well, I wish I did. And right, you don't want that regret. So
Right.
I joined my local fire department and started riding the ambulance. I went to EMT school, which was about 6 months long for class. And then you have to take a series of exams, a final exam, what they call a psychomotor exam, where you have to physically demonstrate that you can do the skills that are required. And then there's a state written exam. And I did that back I joined in 2014. I became an EMT in 2015. And then I just continued to volunteer with the fire department. So, the local fire services are not paid. And people are shocked to find that now. As a person who came from Brooklyn, I was a city girl. We always had the paid fire department. It was FDNY. And out here, the fire service is completely volunteer. Our EMS in Nassau County is volunteer. There are paid. The Nassau County Police Department has ambulance, their ambulance service, but the fire department ambulance kind of supplements and responds. There's a different matrix, and that's a whole other situation and conversation. But so I just always, I found that I liked it, and I felt that
and I think you found that you were good at it also.
I felt like I was good at it, and I felt like, there are times that you can't you can't fix every problem, but to me, and I say this to the younger, newer members, treat everybody that you encounter in that situation. Make sure you treat them the way you'd want your family to be treated. And I feel like if there's nothing more that I can do, then maybe let somebody who's scared hold my hand while we get them to where they need to be to get more care. Then I've done something, because I've made an impact. Just being kind and compassionate to people, I think, is a skill in itself. And it's an underrated skill, and medically there are protocols, and, if this, then that, and you follow those. And I liked it, and I decided to go to the next level, which is an advanced EMT. It's a fairly new level in Nassau County. That was about 9 months of school.
I want to make sure people understand, because I think it's a big deal, and I really want to put a lot of emphasis. You are New York certified AEMT.
Right. Now I'm a New York State certified AEMT, which is advanced EMT. Right. So I got my regular EMT basic certification, because when you take your state exam, it's with New York State, and you get a certification, not a license. That's different, but it's a certification. And then last year, the year before last, actually, I started the advanced EMT, which gives you more tools in your toolbox, and it goes deeper into physiology, and there are some additional treatments that you get certified to provide in certain situations. So I did that last year. That was a 9-month class, and I passed my state exam for that, my certification, in just about a year ago. It's the end of August or September. So it's been almost a year that I've been certified at the next level. And there is a more advanced level, paramedic, which is way more in depth, and a year and a half to 2 years. It really depends on the program you go into, but that's another level.
Is that something that you're interested in doing?
It's something I've thought about, and I've considered it, and I'm still debating whether I'm going to do it. So, so being with my local fire department and being involved in EMS, and now I'm going to kind of go back when I digressed earlier, when I was PTA council president, one of the things, and I know you and I had spoken about it, is stop the bleed. We hear about these active shooters. We hear about all of these things that happen, that nobody saw coming, and you're in a school environment, and the Stop the Bleed program is one of those things where you teach people basics, and anybody can learn it. So I became an instructor for Stop the Bleed and worked with the school district, and our school district was very, very receptive and responsive. And my goal was to get every staff member in every school in the school district trained in this technique. And we were working on trying to get Stop the Bleed kits, or at least, the minimum in every classroom. Or at least in the hallway. And I know that was an initiative that I'm happy to say by the time I left my term as council president, every staff member who was employed and working in the district at the time was trained, had the training on how to manage a life-threatening bleed, how to control using a tourniquet, using a packing technique based on where that bleeding might be. We hope that it's something nobody ever has to use, but when you know what to do in a situation, you're so much more empowered. Instead of panicking, you take that minute and you go, wait a minute, I know what to do. I had that training, and hopefully, that kicks in, and that can make all the difference in the world,
Yes.
So,
yes. I have a friend who's a former retired emergency service unit officer, and he was actually the person that introduced that to me. And one of the things that he really kind of drove home was it's really buying time so that the officers can clear the area and then allow for medical personnel to get in and do their job. And I can't think of anything that's more important than buying time to save a life. So you did an outstanding job.
Absolutely.
I can't thank you enough. That was an amazing program, and you just knocked it out of the park. And so thank you so much for that.
Yeah. And like I said, I was lucky to have the support of the school district. The fire department was good in letting us bring some other volunteers to come and help. And we worked with the Nassau County Fire Police Academy to get other instructors in there to help, because it took a lot of people. And I will say it was definitely something I was very proud to do. And, once I finished with my tenure at PTA Council after my youngest graduated, and I feel like I did accomplish some good things, I focused a little more time with the fire department, and I went into office there. I became a second lieutenant and a first lieutenant. And now this year, I'm actually currently the captain in my company. I'm the 12th female captain and the first one in over a decade. So that's
the first female captain
in over a decade. There are, I believe, 11, either 10 or 11 females in the history of the fire department that I'm involved with that were captains prior to me. And a few of them are still there. And I do say that they counsel me. They, I know I can go to all of the ex-captains that we have who are around, but the female ones, it's a little bit of a different category. I will say I always feel respected. I don't feel that I'm treated differently because I'm a woman, which is fantastic. And it's nice that as women, I think we've come that far, in our communities and in our just in our states, in our lives. I think it's something that I'm proud of. And I think being role models, like we both have sons, you and I, but we also both have daughters. So I think to be the role model for our girls and our boys as well. But I think it's important. And so for me, I kind of feel like these are things, I do, and to get back to your question about paramedic school, I do own my own business as well. So with COVID, things were affected a little bit. So, it's coming back. And I do now also do EMS part-time. I work with one of the bigger hospital systems per diem, just, kind of to supplement a little bit.
What is the name of your company that you...
my company? Rhythm of the Night Entertainment.
Okay.
Rhythm of the Night Entertainment.
Entertain.
Yeah, it's in entertainment, DJs, MCs. The business has been around for a very long time. My oldest, one of my dear friends from childhood, was passionate about entertaining. He was a phenomenal DJ and an MC. Brought me into the business to help run it. Unfortunately, 2 years ago, at the age of 48, he passed away from colon cancer, and it was his wish that the business continue on. So we have the same team, but he did leave me partnership with his wife. So I own the business. I've worked to grow this business. I put some my focus on that. So that's it's time consuming, but we love what we do. We love, making people's events, special, and hopefully that we're seeing it come back a little bit, but, between that and I am glad that I had my EMS experience with my volunteer agency, because that did help me to work, to get a job where I get paid to do it as well now, part-time. So
Right.
it just happened to all work out where it's a good fit for me. So I
There's
don't know if I have time to go for my paramedic, but it's in the back of my mind.
Expression. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's the sense that I get from you, Robin, is all these years, and you actually had another career prior to having children. I think you really found your lane and what speaks to you and what you love to do. And
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely amazing. And that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, because I feel that you are a role model for our young women, for our youth. I think that the word can't isn't in your vocabulary, and you are a trailblazer. And I'm just so proud to call you my friend. So I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, because, as you said, you could never run into a fire. That's not your thing. I have to say that I'm right alongside of you, unless it was my children or my dogs. I think the fear for me would be just overpowering. I also know that I don't think I could do what you do either. I think that it takes a very special person. Now, we've just come out of a pandemic. Tell me a little bit about some of the struggles that you encountered during the pandemic. Did you have enough PPE? Did you feel that you were safe? Were you given priority for vaccinations or any of those things?
So fortunately, I will say that the fire department that I volunteer with has been fantastic in terms of making sure that their members were protected, in terms of getting PPE, in terms of disinfecting and cleaning the equipment after every time we went out, limiting the amount of people that would be responding, to these calls, just to limit the amount of people who were potentially exposed. So I actually did get COVID very early on in COVID. And fortunately for me, I didn't get it very severely. It kind of felt almost like the flu. And I quarantined and got through it at home, which was, I was blessed to that. I mean, we did see, a lot of people who were very sick. COVID is a real, it's a real thing. And there's always that fear involved, for me, even, I come home, even though we have our gear that we wear, I would come home and take whatever I was wearing to the firehouse off, and, going to work, when I get home, I take my work clothes off right at the door, and, make sure that everything gets washed right away. It's interesting because you kind of never know what you're walking into. And, I have to say all, the first responders, EMS, police, fire. It's just, it's an interesting world that we live in right now. But there's always a little bit of fear, and you worry about your colleagues. My daughter volunteers as well with the fire department. She's an EMT. So, that adds an extra layer of mom worry all the time.
Yes.
But yeah, it's definitely, we do the best that we can. We have guidelines and protocols that we follow, and, it's incredibly uncomfortable wearing some of that PPE. It gets very hot, it gets very sweaty, but it's what you have to do, to protect yourself. So when you're, and you do what you have to do.
It is a necessity. And something you touched on earlier, what you do and what a lot of our first responders do, what our volunteer fire department do, is they give up so much of their personal life to be there to protect the community. And I think, as you had said, it escapes people sometimes, and I don't think they're fully aware of the commitment. Now, I've actually been on the phone with you, and I've heard your beeper go off, and okay, go. I'll just
right.
get home safe. Just get home safe, Robin. And so I understand it. I understand it. I remember the day of your fire. I couldn't get to you fast enough. I threw the kids in the car, and I remember you and I finding each other on the sidewalk and just hugging each other. And the fire department was absolutely wonderful, because they said I couldn't go down that road. Yes, I am.
I'm going.
And they did. So I think I really want to emphasize the importance of the volunteer work that you all do in the community. My mom, 83, had really a tough year and a half. And I have depended on the volunteer services in our community when she's fallen to come and take her to NUMC and treat her and keep her calm. And words can express my gratitude and my thanks. And so from me and for all of our future listeners, thank you for being there for our community, for our senior citizens, for our homes, to protect us and to be there when we're afraid, and to comfort us, and everything else that you do. On behalf of our community, I greatly say thank you.
Oh.
And I think, picking you for my first guest was the absolute right choice. And
thank you.
I want to tell the story about a conversation you and I had about a week ago when I was leaving work.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I was leaving work, and I was leaving work. I was on Wancho Avenue, and I was heading north, and I was in the second lane, and I heard the sirens, but I couldn't see them. So I was trying to get over to the right lane, and the person just would not move. I said, either go or either stop, but let me go in, because then I did see the lights coming from behind me, and that emergency vehicle had to go into oncoming traffic. So I finally beat my horn enough. I was able to get over, let the gentleman get over in front of me, stop, which is what you're supposed to do. Lights, siren, pull over to the right. If you don't stop, you go to a very slow speed and you let the emergency vehicle pass you, because you never know where that vehicle's going. And I actually called you that night, didn't I? I called you that night because I felt it was really important that we remind people, as a public service announcement, the life you save may be someone you love. Further down the road, I could see where the emergency vehicle was going, and it was actually going to a ball field where there were children playing. Now, was there an emergency? I can't say for certain. However, I would never want to be the person that delayed a moment, a second of someone getting help. I remember my son getting hit in the face with a baseball, and I got the call, and I couldn't get to Eisenhower Park quick enough. I just couldn't get there quick enough. So I know that fear, and I certainly would not want an emergency service individual response to be trying to get through a dumb situation where people are just not yielding. So I'm glad that we have the opportunity to kind of just get that message out there, yield, because you don't know where that emergency vehicle is going. It could be your own house.
Yep.
It could be to save someone you love, someone you know, someone you care about. And even if it's not someone you know, public service announcement, yield. That's it.
Absolutely. And if you are driving past and you see emergency vehicles pulled over at something, at a home or at an accident or on the highway, and this is not just ambulances, police and fire, there's that move over law. Try to move over into the next lane and keep it clear, because they're operating, and while we all use caution, there have been instances of first responders being hit on the side of the road, or even construction workers. I mean, somebody's there are those laws for a reason. And I agree with you. I've definitely seen I've been the person driving the ambulance. I've been the person in the back of the ambulance rendering aid to somebody. I've been the person in that passenger seat of the ambulance, giving direction to the driver, or, getting the information from a dispatcher, be it at work where we have it on our computer, or, through a radio transmission that's coming to us. And people tend to freeze or not pay attention. Most people do move over, but 100% there are times that in emergency vehicles do need to make these other moves around, and it creates a more dangerous situation. So we always use what we call due regard when we're responding. Yeah. But if people would just pay a little more attention and heed those guidelines and move over, and from a volunteer point of view, the way that it works is you respond usually from your home to your firehouse or your station, and then get into your apparatus. So there are blue lights. There's like a little blue light that everybody gets, and some people have additional lights so that you're a little more visible. If you're a volunteer responding with a blue light in your car, you're still required to follow all the traffic laws, as an emergency vehicle is. If it's a red light, you're supposed to really ensure that it's safe before you proceed through that intersection. But for volunteers more, if somebody has a blue light in their vehicle and that light is on, it means they're responding to their station, at least out here in Nassau County. And
that's interesting. I don't think I knew that.
And that's kind of, again, you're not required to move out of the way. A lot of people do. I take some main roads from my home to get to where I need to go. And a lot of people do move over, and some people don't. And I think in that case, some of it is a lack of education. In fact, my daughter did that as her Silver Award project, the, blue light for a volunteer. What does it mean? And she handed some information out to try to educate the community about that as well, because it is unique. Like I said, you and I know you're from Queens, I'm from Brooklyn. We didn't grow up with that as something that we learned. So, and we do have people moving out here from the city, and they don't understand or know how it works. It took me years to know that there was a volunteer fire service and how that whole response worked, and I think that a lot of people still don't. So the blue light on a personal vehicle on means a volunteer is trying to get to respond to their firehouse, to their, fire truck or their ambulance. To then go in that emergency vehicle with all the lights and sirens.
Right.
So those are, some things that are important, I think, for the community to know.
I think this is a great opportunity for you and I to to do a public service announcement, and we just did one. So
We
thank
did.
you.
Yay!
The worst thing that can happen is you have a first responder, whether it's police, fire, or EMT, um, doing their job and having a fatality because somebody did not move over, or somebody did not yield as they should have. You and I have a mutual friend. He works with the Nassau County EMT. I won't mention his name because I didn't ask for permission. He was involved in a pretty serious accident not too long ago. We both know him very well. He's a great guy. He's has two wonderful children, has a wonderful wife, and we were really afraid for him because we didn't know how serious his injuries were. He was responding to a call, and not sure completely of all the details, but there were multiple vehicles involved in the accident, and he ended up becoming one of the injured. And having it, hit close to home to someone I think it shakes you a little bit, and it's a reminder. But we shouldn't need those kinds of reminders to do what's right.
It's true. It's true. I think people just need to pay a little more attention and realize, like you said, that emergency that someone's responding to could be someone could be your home, could be your loved one. And the people who are responding also need to go home safe every day.
Yes.
Or every night. And so, that's for me as a leader and a captain, that's my ultimate goal. Everybody goes home safe, at the end of every time we go out. And it's hard. I mean, it's just there's adrenaline involved too. So, you have to just take a couple of deep breaths and realize that not everybody on the road is going to yield to you. And it's tough, and sometimes, and it's hard to not get angry and, escalate, but we don't, it's just something that I've come to learn to go, okay, we're going to do the best that we can. And, it's tough. It's tough.
I want my friends safe. I want my friends to stay safe. I want them to go home to their families and be safe. So I know that we do recruitment in our area. Is there a Facebook page? Is there a contact for anyone that might be interested in joining or checking things out or having a conversation?
Anybody, just whatever town you're in, look for your local fire department. So if you are in East Meadow, it's East Meadow Fire Department. If you're in North Belmore, it's the North Belmore Fire Department. And there's generally information on their websites, further information and links to submit your interest. Every year they do something called Recruit New York, which is kind of like a one day every volunteer fire service participates at the same day. So we did it a few months ago. We had an open house. Our doors were open. Anybody in the community was welcome to come in while we were doing a training. We did get some coverage from News 12, which was nice.
Amazing.
And
awesome.
Yeah, we actually did get where I am. We did get a new member that recently joined out of that event. So but you just check out your local fire department, you search it, look for their website, and they all have information on it about anybody who's interested in joining or a contact, or you can submit an interest and then they'll forward it to somebody. So if somebody were to look into the department that I'm in and be interested in joining EMS, depending on, and it all kind of depends on where you live in that district, what station your information would go to.
So we've had a great conversation. Our first conversation with Eileen, Robin, and
so exciting.
Can't thank you enough. You're a friend. You're my partner in crime. I think you'll always be my partner in crime.
Always.
We will be Lucy and Ethel until we're not Lucy and Ethel anymore. But I'd like to give you the final word. Anything that you'd like to say, any message that you'd like to get out there?
You know what? I feel like I've gotten to talk about so many important things today. And, I just think that moving forward and continuing to do the things that we do, I happen to find something that I'm passionate about by doing EMS. But if you're somebody who, and doing PTA and advocacy, but, if you're somebody who likes to volunteer wherever it is, whether it's at a senior center or an animal shelter, or working with, as I know you have done a lot with the American Legion, which is fantastic. In fact, my grandfather was a veteran, and he was the county commander in Brooklyn for his American Legion post. So that's near and dear to my heart as well. But I think that being a part of your community, just being a part of the fabric of your community, there's something for everybody. And, we're all very busy. But even if it's an hour, the volunteer fire service is a big time commitment, but even if it's an hour a month, or, whatever it is at something local, something that you like, something that you have an interest in, you may, just like that day you sucked me into PTA was really, and I come from a long line of volunteers. My grandfather, as I said, was a county commander with the American Legion, and my dad was involved with PAL and with Boy Scouts, and my mother was a den mother. And when you roped me into PTA, that got me involved, in volunteering as an adult. So I just think that trying to find a little bit of time to give back to your community or help, help somebody when you can. Like, you never know when you are going to be the person who needs the hand up. I never thought I was going to find myself, being out of our house with no place to go, and things can change for anybody in a moment, in a heartbeat, right in a moment. And you never know. I just feel like you should treat everybody with respect, right? I worked for a little while. I worked in a restaurant when my kids were younger, and I have to say that the dishwasher who didn't really speak a lot of English, and I didn't speak a lot of Spanish, I always treated him with the same respect as the CEO of the franchise that ran the company that I worked for, because I just think that, doesn't matter what your standing is, doesn't matter what your 100%. Doesn't matter what you have, what you don't have, what kind of car you drive, what model phone you have. We're all here on this earth for however long we're here. And I just think, like I said before, do the right thing, even when nobody is looking. And, it's just about being a good human,
And, I really have to say, and I may be somewhat prejudiced, but I do feel that our community, and when I hear, things across the island, I do feel that we are extremely unique, because at any time when somebody puts a call out for help, whether it's on any of the Facebook pages, I mean, you just see people lining up, where can I drop off? Who can I Venmo money to? What can I do? So we may be a little prejudiced because we live here, but I think it's a valid statement that we are very unique in how we do treat each other, and how much respect we do have for other members of our community. And Robin, anytime you want to come on and have another conversation with Eileen, you are welcome to come anytime, because you and I can find a million things to talk about.
We could talk for hours, and I will say this, that I know that when I spoke with you earlier, this isn't really about you, But I have to say, I really, really believe that your heart is in the right place. And I think that your passion and knowing you as long as I do just makes you a very, very, very good choice. And I think that you will make such a great positive change. And not that we live in a bad place at all, but there's always progression. And I think that if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got.
I knew you were going to say that.
And I just think that, bringing fresh ideas and a fresh perspective and a different type of passion, that only to know you is to know the passion that you have. And I think that's why over all the years we've always been enmeshed somehow, even when our kids were in different directions and maybe we were involved in different things that weren't connected. I think that's been one of the ties that has always bound us together. And
we'll continue.
Yep.
Along with a nice Pinot Grigio.
Yes. Yes.
All right, Robin.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be your first guest. I really am.
I couldn't have had a better first guest. And thanks. The last thing I want to say is you just always stay safe. I want you always to go home to your family, and I want to be able to pick up the phone and call and hear your laugh, and I can see your smile through the phone. Okay, my friends?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. I will talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.